Hello there, this video is a bit of a deeper dive into the RTS engine I've been working on. If you look at my YouTube channel, you will see I have some shorter videos where I'm highlighting various features. But I figured it's been 3 months, so let's make a deeper dive video where I kind of show everything top to bottom and talk through some of the features. So first of all, what even is this? This is an RTS engine that I've been programming completely from scratch in C++ and using OpenGL. I've been working on this for about 3 months in my free time on evenings and weekends because I do have a full-time job at a AAA studio outside of this. So when I'm not doing my game programming for work, I'm doing my game programming for fun, and this is my fun project. Um, and I guess another question is, why am I even doing this? Well, I've been playing a lot of real time strategy games during the COVID lockdown, um, and it's just kind of I really like the genre, and I feel like there's a lot of innovation that could happen in it. There's a lot more things that haven't been done that I think could be done, but no one's really making RTS games anymore. So I was looking for a hobby project to do as well, and I was thinking this would be the perfect thing: make an RTS engine, um, and just prototype a lot of the ideas I've been having. It's not 100% true that no one's working on RTS games anymore. If you've seen the news about Frost Giant Studios, so I'm really excited about that. I have about a 3 month head start on them, so I welcome the competition. Uh, Anyways, let's jump into the engine. So this is what it looks like when you start it up. And I can middle click to place some worker units. Let's just start with the very basics. You can kind of see they get a little highlighted when I hover over them, and then I can click them to select them. I can shift click to select multiple. I can drag click to select a bunch, typical RTS things. I can control click to select all nearby. Then I also have control groups, so we'll press control 1 for them and control 2 for them, and then I can jump back and forth. And there's even some cool, more advanced things. So like if I use Alt and Shift, I can steal these guys from their old control group and then append them to a new control group. So now 1 and 2 will correspond to those groups. And so all these things, these just selection, unit management stuff, it's really important for me. And I kind of it was one of the first things I worked on because a lot of RTSs ship without having good unit management, and it drives me crazy. I feel like StarCraft kind of sets the standard for what every RTS should have, and a lot of them fall very short. So I'm happy to report that I have all that stuff working. Now, next, let's look at these little command cards. You can see when a unit is selected. And so these are, like you would expect, they're buttons that you can press. This is the patrol command, and that does what you would expect. You can also press the hotkey, and so the hotkeys are in a grid pattern, so Q, W, E, R, A, S, D, F. Although I'm being a little dishonest, I actually don't have a QWERTY keyboard. I have a Dvorak keyboard, so for me it's different. But the great thing is that the input system handles all that without the game really having to be aware of it. So yeah, if I press on Dvorak, this is the U key. I can do patrol with that. If I had a QWERTY keyboard, it would be F. And I think that's really great. I think grid hotkeys make a lot of sense in modern RTS. I think using letters as mnemonics, that's a hard word. Using letters like T for stim, that's I don't think that's the way to go. I think the grid hotkeys are the way to go. So one problem I have with StarCraft grid hotkeys though is that I think attack is like up here, or I have to press like T or Y on a QWERTY keyboard to attack, and that's not really what I want. I want to use A for attack. But if I want the grid, I have to use that other key. So how do I reconcile those two? What I'm planning on doing, I don't have this implemented yet, but I want to make it so you can rebind which slot each command goes in. And so you can rebind attack to a different key, or rebind it to a different slot, and then that slot will have its corresponding grid key. I think that will kind of be the best of both worlds as far as allowing rebindable keys go, but also adhering to a strict grid hotkey system. Like I said, not implemented, but that's the dream. So another thing I wanted to mention is that all the computation for this simulation is all happening with fixed point math. So I wrote my own fixed point math library. And the reason for that is that in the future I want to be able to add networking with deterministic lockstep. And floating point is one of the common ways that desyncs sneak into that. So I know most, or at least a lot of modern RTSs use fixed point computations to get around that, and that's forward looking, but it is something I want to do. So I'm making it easy for myself. I already have everything in fixed point. Let's go ahead and build some buildings. So I can click in here, and you can see I get this little sub menu. I can build a town hall. Let's actually build some barracks as well. And we can use shift to issue multiple commands. Now the town halls will train workers and the barracks will train soldiers. And the only difference between the two is workers are square and get these top two commands. Soldiers are circles and don't have those top two commands. This is a bug. I know what that bug is, where they all start moving off to the side. Ignore that. Yeah, so we trained a bunch of workers. We got a bunch of soldiers. We got our workers. So let's mine some resources with our workers. So I have some debug keys I can use to place these things. Which, yeah, you guessed it. It's minerals and gas. Let's make some more workers. I won't necessarily use minerals and gas as the resources in the final game, but it's a good starting point. Let's distribute our workers, and you can see how much of a pain it is distributing workers to gas and minerals, especially like, you know, if you pull your workers away due to some harass, you know, you pull your marines up, defend the harass, they kill off the guys, and now you have your workers. You gotta click here, you know, shift click 3 workers, click here, shift click 3 more, and then click here. You'll also notice I click on one mineral, they all distribute. Pretty nice, right? Anyways, that was like almost 10 clicks to get everyone back to mining. When really, the only real decision you're making is how many do I want on gas, and you want everyone else in minerals, right? So really it's like, okay, I want 0 on gas, I want 3 on gas, I want 6 on gas. Those are kind of the 3 options you're usually going to choose. Clicking 10 times to decide between one of 3 options kind of sucks. So my solution to this is this gather hotkey, or this gather command, I should say. In most games, the gather command just acts like a right click. It'll just gather on the thing you click it on. That's kind of useless. You might as well just right click, right? So what I decided to fix, to kind of attempt to address this micromanagement of your workers, is when you press gather, it actually brings up this AoE, and whatever is in the AoE will get mined from. And it'll fully saturate the gases, and then everyone else goes to minerals. So let's say I just want 3 on gas. I just do this, and I click, and boom. That's exactly what I asked for. I think that's really cool. I think you need to be a little careful when it comes to doing things like this that can lower the skill ceiling, you know. I don't think they're always necessarily a good idea, but I really like this one because I think it's really just not an interesting interaction of, it's very mechanically demanding to assign workers to resources. I don't think it should be that way. So I'm really happy with that solution. let's see, what else is there to show? Okay, I have, like, you can see, you can rally units out of buildings. You can also shift. I've kind of shown that. You can queue commands up. One other thing that's interesting is you can target other units with your commands. So this, you can see he's actually going to this guy. And then if this guy were to die, I'm going to delete him. He'll just go on to the next thing. So that would simulate like a unit dying, you know. So there's kind of a pretty robust order system that's managing all of this stuff. It's also being used as workers kind of, you can see they kind of jump around if a mineral patch is full. That's all being pumped through the order system. Let's jump into the editor. Or that's what I've been calling this, the editor. It doesn't really edit much yet, but that's kind of the idea. You can see I have a free flying camera. I can move around. I also have the game in the corner. I can click into it and I can actually play the game while the editor is running. I think that's a really neat feature. Let's go back into the editor. And then I also have, I've been working on this immediate mode UI system. If you know, it's a popular UI paradigm. If you know, like Deer MGUI is a popular one that's open source. But I've been writing my own immediate mode UI. So it's actually the same UI that's powering the command card in game, these buttons and these little window regions. That's the same thing that's powering the UI in the editor. I have a couple more widgets here, like little checkboxes. So the UI picker is kind of just a little debug tool where it shows which UI element your mouse is over. So it's kind of like spec element in Google Chrome. You can see if I like select the workers, I can jump in and hover over the buttons. That's pretty cool. And this immediate mode UI system is actually doing quite a lot of heavy lifting. It's also handling, like when I click into the game, it's intercepting all the input, and so it doesn't bubble out to the editor. The editor doesn't know that I'm getting input. This picture-in-picture actually renders to a texture in OpenGL that's not this main screen, and then it gets like drawn on top. That texture gets drawn as the editor picture-in-picture. All that stuff is handled by this immediate mode UI system. It is doing quite a lot of heavy lifting, more so than it is immediately visible. And that's been something I've been working a lot on over the past month. I can show a few more of these things. So this is a cool one. It's a little unclear from the name, call editor cam, but what it does is, so when you're in game, you don't draw units that are off screen, right? That's kind of a waste of resources. They get called, but it's not easy to see that you're doing it correctly without any bugs, because you can't see the units that aren't getting drawn. So how do you know they're actually not getting drawn? So what this call editor cam does is it lets me view identically what is being done in game. It lets me see that exactly in the editor. So if I move the game around, you can see the camera moving in the editor. You'll see these guys stop getting drawn. Let me get a little more clear. I'll fly up, get a better angle, go back into the game, move around, and you can see just when the game camera is looking at things, are they being drawn. So that's a really handy debug tool. That was kind of the motivation for writing this editor camera in the first place. I'm really happy with how that turned out. Let's put that back on. Let's look at world chunks for a minute. So let's jump back into the game. The units actually, the storage for the units is per world chunk. So this is a spatial partition. So when a unit moves from one chunk to another, it's actually relocating in memory. But units can still reference other units, and the relocation is, they don't have to worry about it. Basically, the references use unit IDs, which will go through a table, and just that stuff all will get updated. when you move in memory. Um, you can see these guys turn purple when I get close. So what the spatial partition does, it lets me only collision test against units that are nearby. So I don't have O of n squared collision testing for all the units. It's still quite a lot, you know, if you get in a busy chunk like this, it's still kind of a lot, but you know, not as much as if, you know, we had hundreds of units all over the map. It's really nice to get out of the O of n squared complexity. And if I find that this is still too much, I can subdivide these further and make more of a quad tree. You'll also notice when I get near these guys, they actually don't turn purple. That's because they're mineral walking. Use the StarCraft terminology, where they actually don't collide with units because they're actively gathering resources. So that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, this is another thing. You can see I actually have support for an orthographic camera, and you can see the frustum changed on the minimap from perspective to orthographic. You can also see this when we're in the editor. We show this little camera view. This is perspective and ortho. So I think that's pretty cool. I think it'll be nice once I'm making art. I'm going to try and make art that looks good in both perspectives, because this is kind of like a more old school style. But I really like it. You know, I think it would be cool to let the player choose one or the other, or just toggle on the fly. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, let's turn on this show unit clumps. So one problem I spent a lot of time working on was if you have a big group of units like this, and they all move here, well, they're not all going to get to that point, right? Some of these guys didn't, like this guy, he did not get to the point he was actually moving to, but he still stopped. How did he know how to stop? Because if you do it naively, all the units are just going to jostle around, all trying to get to the same point. So what a lot of RTSs do, or at least part of the solution, is they'll offset the move commands. They won't all be moving to the same spot. Like this guy will actually be moving here, he'll be moving here, he'll be moving here, etc. I do think I want to do that at some point, but it's actually not implemented at all. Units are all moving to the exact same spot when I issue this command, but it still works. And so how does that work? What I do is I've turned on this this unit coloring is based off what I call their clump, and it's kind of self-explanatory. You know, as units split apart, they become different clumps, and this is just maintaining kind of a list of neighbors that transitively applies to your neighbor's neighbor's neighbor, you know. But you do need to be able to detect once a clump is broken up, so I periodically will run breadth first search over a clump, and they will kind of declump, so to speak. They'll split into two clumps, and then when they move together, they merge. And then how does this help us solve the problem of moving all to one place? Well, what we do is one of the units, like this unit here, this front unit, he will get to the command. Let's get a better color. It's kind of hard to see the blue. Let's do orange. So like this front unit will move, it will get there, and then it kind of gets pushed forward. And so it remembers the fact that it's been displaced about this much from its target command. And any other unit in its clump that sees it's within this distance of the target will say, all right, I've arrived. I don't know if I described that very well. Let's make a slightly bigger clump. So this guy's going to get here, and let's watch as he gets pushed by these units behind it. He gets displaced further and further. He got displaced about this much. And every frame, the units that are in the clump, when they're checking, am I at my destination? If they're within this distance of the destination, then they'll say, okay, yes, I am at my destination. And that kind of creates this ripple effect that when you get there, the units nearby, you get displaced very little, and the units nearby arrive. As you get displaced more and more, the units further away are considered arrived as well. And it's pretty good. I mean, for a first pass, I don't have a whole lot of logic in the unit movement, but it gets the job done. I'm pretty happy with how it looks. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. I've kind of been going for like 20 minutes, so like I said, this is 3 months of progress. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm gonna continue working on it and making these development videos. Maybe, maybe sometime next year I'll actually have something that resembles a playable game where I will have like actual enemies and combat and all that stuff. That'll be pretty fun. So yeah, keep following the channel and I will keep posting more videos. Thank you for watching.